Good morning. This is Jim Moore, and you are watching Justice for America. It is January 31st in the year of our Lord 2023, and this is program number 33. So we're going to be discussing today a few hot topics. Is it time to panic? Okay. Is it time to panic? And then ESG, we'll tell you what that stands for. ESG is here. We're going to talk a little bit about the Tyree Nichols beating, that tragedy that just happened a couple of days ago. And then nuclear missiles, actually Russian nuclear missiles off of the Oregon coast. So we're glad to have you here today. We encourage you to share this with your friends and neighbors. This program is for the purpose of informing you about current events and then giving a biblical worldview of those events. Excuse me. So, yeah, it's a good day. It's frosty outside. There's the beloved Linda, God bless. There's Robin, God bless you guys. Make sure when you come on to say hello so we know that you're there. So it's a very cold day here in Texas, in East Texas. We've got raining. It's freezing rain. I almost said raining ice. I'm not sure, but yeah, what? Anyway, freezing rain, and it makes it pretty difficult. So if you're in our area or any other area that has that kind of weather conditions, please be careful today. All right, so we want to jump right into this today. I want to start out before I get to the links. Now, typically what we do is go through some links that we've been observing all week long. So some of these things are going to be things that you've already heard, and others will be brand new to you. And we typically have more links than you'll probably be able to get through. That's kind of hovering right around the 15, 16 mark. Some of those are read links. In other words, you can, and I try to remember to put those, the ones that you read in parentheses. Actually, people go, oh, I don't have time to read. You know, technically speaking, reading usually takes a lot less time. So you can read a 5-minute thing or a document in 5 minutes, whereas the video might take you longer. Anyway, so we try to write when it's a read, and so there's more. But I want to encourage you to listen to as many of them or read as many of them as you can. Now, this is my confession, real quick, that I don't typically watch all of the video, especially the really long ones. People do that to me too. So sometimes I feel like I can catch most of what's being said in the first 5 or 10 minutes. So that's what I do. But some of them I really feel like they just grab me and, should listen to the whole thing. So I'll leave that up to your discretion. All right. So the biblical part of this is for my friends who are believers in Jesus. I am a unashamed, unabashed Christian. And I do believe that the teachings of the gospel of Jesus Christ will remain forever. One of the things that he said that I think is kind of overlooked among believers is he said that he actually rebuked those who had faith in God for not discerning the signs of the time. Now, we forget this. We kind of think looking at the signs of the time is a negative. And usually the reason we feel that way is because we become obsessive with it. We're the ones that take it to an extreme. God doesn't intend for us to do that. Debbie, God bless you. Nice to have you. But Jesus rebuked them. This is found in Matthew 16. I'm not going to read it. Verse 2 and 3. He said, you can discern the sky, something that's right in front of you, but you cannot discern the signs of the time. He's talking about the condition of the world around him. So he's literally rebuking them for not being able to discern what's happening around them. So that is part of our responsibility to do that. We don't want the rebuke of Jesus for him saying, you know what, you just kind of pretended all the stuff wasn't happening rather than look at it, discern it, pray about it, and live accordingly. One of those things is what the book of Revelation talks about, not being able to buy and sell. And one of the things that we're going to go to, as a matter of fact, the very first thing is massively important. This is something that you're not typically, not until it becomes unavoidable to the legacy media. We call the media that's always been legacy media It's been around forever and ever, or we call it alphabet media, ABC, CBS, NBC, so and so on, CNN. By the way, CNN has its lowest ratings right now in 9 years. Can you believe that? That's because people are starting to wake up. We're living in the information age, and thank God for it, because we need the information that the Lord said, hey, I'm going to allow everybody to be able to find access to a lot of stuff, so they're not going to be living in the dark. That's this whole issue of having access to information is the Lord. It's not the enemy, it's the Lord, but it depends on how we use it. So one of the things he said would happen in the end. It's like, don't freak out. But he said there would be a system that arises that will not permit human beings, and their intention is every human being, to buy or sell. It says bond or free, rich or poor, can I paraphrase, young or old, it doesn't matter what religion, what race, whatever the title or the status is, the intention is that no one can buy or sell unless they come into this system. Now, I'm here to tell you that I believe that's upon us. I'm not a crazy man, but I do believe that this is becoming painfully obvious, so we're going to jump into that. So those are our verses. If you want to look at them, they're in the description box. So let's jump right into this. Now, the first thing I entitled, is it time to panic? Let me just say real quick, the big answer is no. I don't believe it's ever a time to panic. Let me use just a quick illustration, and then we'll jump into the link here. Let's say you come upon a automobile accident, a car wreck, and people are, they're kind of rushing about. It's a bad wreck, okay, bad, not just a little fender bender, but there are, I'm not trying to be crass here, but there are bodies strewn around. There are, there's blood and there's injury, and it's horrifying wreck. Now, what you typically see in a scenario like that, depending on the number of people, it seems like there's typically someone or some number of people screaming their heads off. Okay, I'm not trying to be funny. This is a reality. There's always a number of people that are literally panicking, and they're vocalizing it. And you've seen this. You've watched some event or something unfold on TV, and there's always some in the background going, just screaming. They're not doing it. They're just, it's like their hair's on fire. Let me just say something. Panic never helps. It never helps. Okay? It doesn't even help the person that's panicking, much less the people that could use your assistance in the middle of a crisis. Okay? So when you come into a situation, why does God panic? I'm going to gather my thoughts. Panic and preparation go together. There's two things. People will look to you. And I know for most of us, we want to be useful when the world, begins to unravel as it is right now. Very good things are happening. Very bad things are happening. In the midst of when you're called upon in the bad thing, for example, the wreck. So the injured person, the person that's in trouble, the whoever, who are they going to run to? Okay. Are they going to go, hey, that person over there screaming, let's go to them? No, nobody goes to the panicking person, okay? And so they find someone who looks composed, right, in this situation. And one of the things they ask, are you a doctor? Or if somebody comes up and volunteers, says, I'm a doctor, I'm a physician, I'm an EMT, I am, are you listening? Trained. Okay, if there's two people standing next to each other, neither one of them are panicking. That's step number one. But step number two is training. They're going to gravitate to the person that's been trained. So no panic, okay, and training. So training means preparation. So I know where you're going with this, Jim. Well, it's still the truth, okay? If we do those two things, we then become useful in a scenario, a situation in which others who are not ready, who are in panic mode, who are freaking or whatever, will look to you and I. So that's what we want to be. We want to be calm. We want to have our wits about us. I talked to someone, a good friend of mine the other day. They said, I usually am really good in crisis, and then afterwards I fall apart and cry. That's okay. That's okay. But in the midst of it is not the time to let your emotions rule and so on. So, panic? No. Training? Yes. So you're calm and you're trained. Now, why am I saying all this? Okay. Corey, God bless you. Nice to have you watching today. So number one, ESG. You know, I try to make these videos in such a way, and there are plenty of people that are making and disseminating information with varying levels of accuracy that really are leaning into panic and fear mongering. They would never say that. They probably don't even believe they're doing it. But in essence, there's a saying in the media culture: if it bleeds blood, if it bleeds, it leads. Now, why is that? Why would we put something on the television or on the internet that is the most graphic and the most, okay, if we've got 5 stories, so let's say CBS tonight is getting ready, and I'm not picking on them specifically, but they've got 5 stories to do. Well, which one are we going to do? Well, if there's one that has to do that is graphic, if it bleeds, it's the leading story. Why? Because humanity, for whatever reason, our fallen nature is drawn to that. So we who are giving out information, okay, we need to make sure that we are giving out not only accurate information to the best of our abilities, sometimes that's hard, but also we're not leaning into what we know will get the quickest and the easiest and the most massive response, okay? So, said all that to say, I try to put these in a little bit of order about what's important, but some of them are going to be more important to you than there will be to me or somebody else, so you get to choose. Number one, ESG. ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. Look it up. It's all over the internet now. These things are now coming out of the closet. They're not being hidden. The powers that be, the movers and the shaker, the financial systems and the corporate systems and the political systems and the governance systems of the world, the social shapers, are saying it's time. We cannot hide this anymore. It's too easy to find information. What we have to do is put it out there as a good thing and, believing that it's going to work. So this is out there, ESG. It's been in the works for quite a while. And please, I'm going to tell you on some of these who the purveyor of this information is. And I hesitate doing that because I think sometimes we size up. I like this person. I don't like this person. I listen to this person. They're like my favorite. And, I understand that. But I also know that what we're looking for, we're not looking at the messengers so much. Some of the messengers are going to be kind of out there. Some of them are not. What you need to listen for and verify is truth. Okay, we are people of truth. We're lovers of truth. So this first one is Glenn Beck. Some of you like him. Some of you don't. Doesn't matter. What matters to me is what he's saying. Now, as a guest on, I'll let you go there. But they're talking about this ESG. Now, in the simplest terms, I'm going to say that it is a global system that is actually being implemented in its first stages right now. Typically, we talk about stuff that's coming. It's easy for people to grab a hold of that and say, well, that's a conspiracy. Well, some of them are conspiracies. The difference between a conspiracy and a conspiracy theory is one's a theory and one is not. Okay, so if I said there are 5 people who are sitting over in some building somewhere and they're conspiring to rob a store, that is a conspiracy. People who conspire, whether they do it in secret or not, they're conspiring to do something. Think about the word. A theory is just that. In other words, that puts it into the realm of secrecy. Okay, they're conspiring together is not being broadcast. It's being done in secret for whatever reason, typically because it's not looked upon favorably in the masses. So what we have then, if someone is privy to this secret information, says, here's something that's happened, I believe that's happening, and they try to give proof or whatever. That, are you ready? That makes it a theory. Okay? So forget what you've been kind of like brainwashed to think about a conspiracy. A conspiracy is basically anybody saying anything about something that you don't already know about. Okay? So Anyway, I said all that to say this is not that. It literally has been people conspiring, but it is no longer a theory. It's out in the open. They're saying it and so on. So this environmental social governance is something that's being implemented right now, today. It's happening in Europe. It will spread throughout the whole globe. I cannot explain it as well as these people. So that's why I can't be an expert on all these things. My forte is the Bible, okay? But I listen to these and I try to weed out the crazy and bring them to you so that you can do the same thing. So hopefully I've gotten rid of some of the weeds before you get to it. So you want to watch this one. This one's a little bit long, but again, if you only have 10 or 15 minutes to watch it, you're going to get the gist out of it when you're listening to this system that basically is at least a partial fulfillment of what Jesus said to John the Beloved on the Isle of Patmos. There's going to be a global system, okay? These things you don't go from nothing to 0 to 100 overnight. Although the scripture does say that labor pains will come upon them, that these transitions sometimes come suddenly as a labor does upon a woman with child. So it can happen slow. That's, I think, the way these things typically happen, the frog in the kettle, because then what might make us totally fearful. Linda and I watched a movie last night where a guy's in the 1800s and he goes on a time journey 100 years ahead. And it's true. If we were to look down the telescope of time and see things years in the future and how they have gradually changed, we would freak out and we'd say, no way, I'm never going to let that happen, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to be a part of that. But when it happens incrementally and there seems to be little really negative effect to it, then we kind of gradually move into these changes. So it can happen either way, but typically I think it's the slow growth. All right, so watch that one, ESG. Now the second one is like and unto that, and I try to group these together a little bit. Our good friend Elon Musk. Now this brings me back to the panic thing. Why are we seeing these things? Are we seeing them to panic? No. That is the opposite of why God wants you. Why he said, you hypocrites. I'm not calling you He said, you hypocrites. You religious hypocrites. They were the religious folks, the God believers. He said, you can discern the sky, but you cannot discern the signs of the time. I think he said it with a sense of like unbelief. Really? Really? Okay. He says, you cannot discern the signs of time. So that's our desire, discern, but not panic. Okay. So that when we find ourselves smack dab in the middle of it, we are calm, cool, collected. We knew it was coming. We're prepared for it. Okay. And that's the other part, being prepared. All right. So Elon Musk said his comment on what was happening, and all of these things are tied together. ESG, if I happen to say EGS, it's because we had a service at the House of Prayer called EGS, Encounter God Service. So if I get them mixed up, forgive me. But it's ESG, again, stands for, I have a hard time remembering because of EGS. Environmental is the E, social is the S, and G is governance. So they're saying we need to dictate, and literally, listen now, listen close. This is about law. This is law. This is not putting out ideas that maybe some people will like and do and some people won't like and do. No, we're talking about established governmental laws that you have to obey on pains of going to jail. Incarceration, you and whoever, these are laws that are currently being implemented. I remember many years ago, my pastor saying this would happen. There would come a day, okay, he was a man of God, visions, dreams, talked to Jesus, saw the Lord, eyes open to the station. I know some of you don't believe in that. So this is coming. Scripture says so. God has showed me it's coming, and it's here. It's no longer in the future. It's here. So they're making laws. Now, what did Elon say about this? Regardless of his faith, he made a statement about the World Economic Forum. As most of you realize, there was this huge meeting, World Economic Forum, it's in Davos, Switzerland. I got my names mixed up. Davos, Switzerland. Klaus Schwab, the big reset guy. We're going to control the world. I even heard Kerry, the former, he's like the weather czar or something. I forget his name. Somebody can write it out for me. Saying it's almost extraterrestrial what we're doing. These guys really are high-minded and believe that they have been chosen by some unseen force to shape the world into this new future. Okay, so God said it would happen. So Elon said the S, okay, in the environmental, social, and governance, okay, he said the S stands for satanic. He said these people are becoming a global government that no one elected. So just a quick read. You should read what he said about that. All right, let's go on to number 3. Again, understanding you can't go to all of these, I'm sure most of you, there are a few. Jen, if you're watching, got a few that are saying, I'm going to read every one of them. Awesome. So let's move to the horrifying beating unto death of Tyree Nichols by 5 police officers. Now, if you've been looking at all, paying attention at all, you understand that this horrific crime, and it is a crime, and I'm going to tell you why it is. I'm not going to elaborate, I don't believe, a long time on this because there's so much out there. Again, you can look to it. And one of the guys that I love so much, because he's a clear thinker, I'll tell you about here in just a second. And I think one of his assessments is the best, and I agree closely with. But in case you haven't read the story or watched the video, 5 police officers descended upon, they're black police officers, okay? Not that that should make a difference, okay? To me, it shouldn't make any difference what color the officers are or what ethnicity the perpetrator, the one committing the crime or whatever is. That should have no relevance at all, but apparently with most people it does. So these 5 police officers, men of color, descended upon this individual for a traffic stop. As it turns out, and again, these things usually take days for all the information to come out. And initially, it just looked like it was just a regular traffic stop that got out of control. It's coming to light now that this young man, Tyree, was probably targeted because he was very likely having an affair with one of the 5 police officers' wife. Okay? Again, information forthcoming and so on and so on. So, it looks like, and I'm not jumping to conclusions, but it looks like what happened is this young man got tracked down because these officers, who have all been fired and all been arrested, all 5 of them, and all been charged with second-degree murder, which is, I'm not going to comment on the charge itself. All right, I believe those were the right things to happen. I want to tell you why. This is not a matter of training, improper training of a police officer. Police officers are not trained to descend upon an unarmed perpetrator and beat them to death. Okay? Anyone who thinks that's a part of their training, or perhaps that the opposite, how to de-escalate and then disengage, is not a part of their training. You simply don't understand. You don't know the truth, okay? Disarming, disengaging, de-escalating, those are trained things that happen. Why didn't they happen this time? Well, there's a number of reasons, and people speculate, well, maybe the guys were having a bad day. You know what? Who cares? Maybe the guys were thought they were threatened. You know what? Who cares? Let me just say it this way. And Dan says this, the guy I'm going to refer to in a minute, way better than I can. We're talking about Dan Bongino, ex-police officer, ex-CIA. I don't know of anybody more qualified to speak to this scenario than he is. And so if you haven't watched the video, it is graphic. It will leave you feeling sick to your stomach. And I know many of you will not want to watch. That's okay. But I think it's important because there's been so much accusation against good police. Okay, and so much craziness about, well, let's defund the police, and I'll get to that in a minute. This is, okay, of all the other issues that may have not have been so legitimate and we don't know the backstory and all of that, I am a great believer and a great supporter of the men and women in blue, okay, unapologetically. But I'm not blind, okay, and I'm not, everybody gets a hall pass because they wear blue. No, and it's been said, and I believe it's true, nobody hates a dirty cop or a bad cop more than a good cop, okay? So you need to know that. This is always the minority. This is not the 90% of the police force. This is the whatever percentage, okay? So the video is graphic, and really it's the ones from the drone, the sky cam, that shows these guys coming and literally beating this guy. Just, spraying him with pepper spray over and over. And it looks more like a revenge beating. I'm just saying. Talks about one of the guys going and taking a smoke break and coming back and hitting the guy again. You can literally see them kick the guy in various places, including the head, at least 3 times that I saw, maybe more. Okay, he's down. Okay, at some point he's down. He's handcuffed. This is what the police are trained to do. They're trained to de-escalate the situation if possible. Okay, sometimes they have to use tasers. Sometimes they have to use deadly force if they believe their life or the life of a citizen is in jeopardy. Okay, and if they draw their weapons, they're taught to use deadly force. Okay, and that's the thing that's really dangerous. But if that's not the case, there's no weapon. They don't believe their lives are in danger. Just to be angry and to assault someone and just to keep, this is, in my opinion, classic police brutality. They're not given license to just beat someone because they're mad or they had a bad day or this guy mouthed off to them. Let's paint the worst case scenario for a second. Okay, I'm almost done. Let's paint the worst case scenario. Let's say this man, Tyree Nichols, this is not true, but let's just say he killed a cop. They found out about it and they chased him down. There's nothing worse in the police force, than being a cop killer. All right? Every cop in the district will come and try to track you down. All right? It's the worst thing. This is what they will say, okay? When they find this person, they do not have a license to kill them automatically. If the person is brandishing a weapon, then they can use a deadly force if he does not respond to put the weapon down, okay? So if he doesn't put the weapon down, they can respond with deadly force. But let's say he does. He's a cop killer, okay? I'm using the most serious scenario. He's a cop killer. Every one of those guys lost a brother in arms. There's a camaraderie among our safety mechanism, the police force and so on, that is, it's very like the military. Okay, you protect your brother. And it's a brotherhood. It's very, very, very intense. So their emotions and their rage is like at the peak when they're chasing down a cop killer. Okay, the worst, right? If they come to that person and he doesn't have a weapon or drops a weapon, and they're able to get handcuffs on that person, their job is done. They have no legal right to continue to act aggressively towards a person who has been brought under submission and subjection. When they cross that line, that's when it becomes police brutality, and that's when it becomes assault, and that's, in this case, it becomes literally either manslaughter or I don't remember all the things, some kind of third-degree murder, second-degree murder, whatever. These guys are charged with second-degree murder. All right. Why does all of this matter? Because we need to make sure that there are good people who are protecting. Now, watch the Dan Bongino one. Okay, here again, I know so I don't like Dan Bongino. I use bad language, and he's just like a hothead. Dan is a hothead. He is. I'll tell you why I like him. Because I believe he is committed to speaking the truth, whether he likes it or doesn't like it, and I am looking for the truth. I'm not looking for the person. Now, I'm not going to give a hall pass to someone who's just constantly spewing out F-bombs and just, acting like an idiot. No, of course not. But that's not damn. So I encourage you to watch it. Take away from which one. Number 5 is this idea of defunding the police. It goes in line with this. Okay, the next couple are in the same genre. We heard the cries, defund the police. I want to say this in a semi-polite and very pointed and specific way. To the idea of just defunding the police, getting rid of the police force. Most people don't really want that, but we are such lemmings sometimes. We'll just jump on any phrase. Something gets attention and it gets phrased and people start putting it on signs and protest, and we're all in, baby. Yeah, police force, bad. Take away all their money. Yeah, let's do that. Why we're so caught up so easily, there's actually a scientific term for this. It's called mob rule. Okay, where people who normally wouldn't just flow into the mob. This is a distortion and a perversion and like a throwing on gas of an inward need to be accepted, to be with the crowd, not to want to stand out from other people and receive persecution, receive ridicule, or anything like that. Never is that seen in a more radical way than when people get swept up into mob opinion or mob rule, and they check out their brain and they don't think about it. So this little video, it's only 34. Oh, wait a minute. I'm looking at the wrong one. The defund the police video is some people commenting on this thing that it still hasn't died. I mean, you would think after the George Floyd and all of that, and did you realize that there were police forces around the United States that had huge defunding? Seattle, one of the worst. Okay, I read recently they're not able to keep up with the dead bodies. Crime has gone so people are leaving in mass. Okay, listen, you cannot take away a police force without chaos ensuing. Okay, I want you to think for a minute. So, in this video, number 5, they are actually now, some of these cities, okay, they don't want to go back and go, hey, we made a mistake, because that'll make them look bad and they might lose their job. And they're not a mayor or they're not a governor anymore. Wouldn't that be a shame that you actually stood up for and said, I made a mistake? Okay, you would probably be the most popular politician in the world if you did that, because no one wants to do it. All right, so instead of doing that and saying, you know what, that was really stupid, we should not have taken away our funding for the police department. Look what's happened. We're looking at the numbers. There's more crime. There's more drugs. You've watched the videos. Okay, there are whole stores, whole chains of stores that have had, it is crazy. People smashing and grabbing. It is insane. Well, you know what? That's what happens. Okay? It's madness, and it's not rocket science. It really isn't. So they're saying now, hire your own protection. I'm not kidding you. Some of this stuff that we bring, it's almost, if I didn't know it was true, I would go, no, that can't be. Okay. So what they're saying now, and I'll move along here, they're saying, not saying let's fund the police, but let's you all need to start thinking about hiring your own security. So if you're a store owner, a family, we want to limit your right to have guns, but you need to hire your own security. It is literal insanity. All right, so that's a good one to watch. The next one is Atlanta is burning. Actually, you can see what would happen if you defunded the police. Can I just say a real quick thing here? Okay, let's just pretend. I want you to stop, maybe close your eyes. I want you to think about something. What would happen, not over a long period of time, not the frog in the kettle, not the gradual whatever, but let's just say from one day, I'm doing this for a reason, from one day to the next, from Monday to Tuesday, okay, or Tuesday to Wednesday, let's say today, every single state in every single city defunded their police. Let's just say it all happened. It would never happen that way, but let's just say it did. What would happen if all funding was, let's say, what would happen if all policemen were gone tomorrow? Again, it's not rocket science. It's very simple. Within a matter of days, maybe hours, massive chaos would ensue. Okay? Defunding police equals chaos. It's that simple. Now you defund a little bit, and you're only going to get a little bit of chaos. You keep adding to that, and you keep preaching that same nonsense, chaos is going to increase. This is playing out in front of our eyes. It needs to stop. And it's really voices like yours and mine who stand up and say, no, you cannot be that foolish. You're educated people. You know what would happen. You don't, a lot of this, I'm going to say, these things, opinions get me in trouble. You know what a lot of this is based on? It's based on money. Okay? People that are looking out for their money interests, they're looking out for their stocks and their dividends and their investors and all of that, you know, are saying, oh yeah, whatever the public says, because their net worth starts going down, and they're going to say whatever they think. Who cares what the consequences are? All right, I'm starting to rant. I'm going to jump off that. So number 6, some of this is happening right now in Atlanta. You've probably seen it on the news, where Antifa is rising up again. That's probably a word that'll get me thrown off, but I said it. Okay? And again, what are we doing? Now, thankfully, Atlanta, Georgia, their police department is saying not going to happen here. And it's probably already quelled. I wasn't able to watch today. But basically, the A group, I'll say it that way, the A group, okay, who are demonically inspired, and I don't say that casually. I don't call everybody who protests demonic, okay? I believe protesting is a right that we've been given that we should utilize in a peaceful measure like Martin Luther King did, okay? Just say it. But this group has gone off the rails. They are, and I believe they are absolutely demonically inspired because their founders, some of their founders, believe in that. Okay, so the police force in Atlanta said, no, not going to happen, not going to happen here. We're going to treat you like a criminal. Simple, Simon, okay? That's the way it ought to be. Number 7, and then there's a reader about Atlanta if you want to go deep in that. So some of this, again, revolves around the issue of money. Number 7 is eliminate the ceiling, okay? Wow, this I could go for so long on this, but I'm not going to do it. Our budget in this country, of all the things we ought to be cutting, you know, I think if the average American, if there was somehow a list, like 1 to, I don't know how many things we budgetize, how many things the U.S. government, which is you, pays for. What I mean by that is it's your tax dollars. Their money's not coming from outer space. It's coming from your pocket, okay? Then it grieves me the things that they're supporting with my money, okay? But let's just say there was a list of the 6,000 things that they give money to. That would be the budget, right? I don't know how many things there are. When Linda and I make a budget, you know, there's 20, 30 things. We got to pay for rent. We got to pay for this. We got to pay for this. We have this much money, okay? We live within our means, right? Isn't that what we teach people, responsible youngsters? Probably shouldn't say that word, use that word. We teach our young to be responsible in economics. Our government, people say, Jim, you don't like your country. I love my country. I fly the flag. I am red, white, and blue. I'd show you a flag right now in this room. I love my country. I just don't love the way it's being run right now. And then you know what? Can I say it? All right, those critics who would criticize that, I'm telling you, now we pray for our leaders, good or bad, okay, and we try to make changes in a positive way, right, according to the system we've been given, even though it's broken. But let me tell you this, it's okay not to like the way that your country is being run. God forbid that as a moral person, you look at a immoral, and I don't use that word lightly, not everything that's being done in the governance is immoral. I'm not saying that, but there are a lot of immoral people who are doing and implementing immoral statutes and standards that they will expect by law you to comply with. And if you don't think that's coming, I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. But it is. It's already upon us, and it's increasing. All right, it's not wrong to disagree. There are people that are beginning to go to jail for disagreeing. Now, you got one of two choices. You either just shut up and pretend it's not relevant to you because for whatever, you're this, you're that, you're a parent, you're a Christian, you're whatever, or you stand up and say, no, I am the light of the world. Oh, Jim, you're not the light of the world. No, actually, I am. If you're a believer, and again, I'm a Christian, I have no apologies about, I am not ashamed of my Lord, not at all. If you are one who claims to follow him, he says, if you're ashamed of me, one day I'm going to be ashamed of you. I'm never going to let that happen, okay? Jesus said, I am the light of the world. He himself. He turned right around and said the exact same phrase to you. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hid. No one lights a light and he's talking about you, and then puts it under a bushel or covers it up. Jesus said, I am the light of the world. Then he said, you are the light. So I can say what he said about me. I am the light of the world. You need to be able to say that about you. I'm not him. I don't light the whole world. I light my little world of, I don't know, a couple hundred people, whatever. But I am the light of the world. I am in not just encourage, that's the wrong word. I am supposed to light my light, okay? And that means giving good news. That means exposing darkness and so on. All right. Finances in this country. We are $30+ trillion in debt. Now I'm going to say this. People will come up with plans to pay that back. In my opinion, it's never going to happen. I don't believe it was ever supposed to happen. Okay, I'm going to say something, and somebody's going to feel compelled to write in the comment box how mistaken I am, but I'm going to say it anyway. You ready for this? The people who run our country are not stupid. Now, there are times I go, that's stupid. You're being ignorant. You know what? How moronic. Okay, so we use those words right, but what I mean by that. No, the people who are running our systems are typically, not always, typically highly educated people. Doesn't mean they're moral. Doesn't mean they're making right. They can make stupid decisions, right? Okay, but I'm saying they're not uneducated. That's what I mean by that. Now, why did I say that? Anyone with a grade school, maybe junior high education knows you can't keep printing money. You can't keep going into debt without paying your debts. Do you know if I went into debt for multiple tens of thousands of dollars and just refused to pay them, you know what would happen to me? You see, our government is not leading by example. They're actually doing the opposite. Why is this? Is it because they just go, it'll be okay? Do you really think a Harvard-educated person is going, it'll be okay? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They knew this was coming long before the average person did, and my opinion is that this is what they want to have happen. To create a crisis of finances, and then this is an old ploy. It's as ancient as mankind. Oops, sorry about that. Sorry. Okay, it's an old ploy that basically says first you create the problem and then you sweep in and try to fix it. Let me adjust my thing here. I kicked it out of position. I apologize. Okay. First you create the crisis with the intention, okay? Okay, so group of guys get together, men and women, they believe that they're somehow smarter than everybody else on the planet. Some of them, I'm not kidding you, this is not a theory, this is the truth. Okay, I've read their testimonies, have been visited by what they believe to be extraterrestrials, ascended masters. I'm not kidding you. I am not kidding you. They believe they have been commissioned by ancient aliens to take the planet into its next step of evolution. I believe some of their experiences are real. I do. I believe I don't think they're just making it up. I believe they were visited by demonic entities. That's all I'm going to say. Okay? Anyway, these people believe, some of them, and others just fall into line, that I know what I'm saying could get me in trouble. I know. I'm just going to say it anyway. Okay, I'm a warrior. Okay, I'm not here to talk about me. They want the economy to be destroyed. Period. They're not so unintelligent as to think that it can go. Do you know how much $1 trillion is? I know you don't. You need to go on the internet, Google, DuckDuckGo, whatever, and put in visual description of $1 trillion. It's out there. You'll find it. So it'll show $1 million like this little tiny stack of money, little tiny thing. And then it'll show $1 billion. Whoa, big stack of money. Okay? And when it shows $1 trillion, stack upon stack upon stack upon. We don't understand how much money that is. We don't. Okay? Somebody said, I don't remember the thing, they said, but if you took the $1 trillion and put it in $100 bills and set them side by side, it'd like go around the world how many times? How did we get here? Well, we didn't get here because people went, oh no, we didn't really understand what was happening. You know what? Oh, this just took us by surprise. No, I remember where I was at in my car, driving down Commercial Street in Salem, Oregon, right across from, I think it was Big Five, while I'm driving, and I heard the news over the radio that our debt just went to $1 trillion, and everybody freaked out. Well, you know what? Once you get used to that, it's the frog in the kettle, right? Now we're up to 30-ish trillion dollars. So, what's the answer to this? Well, number 7, you thought I lost track. Number 7, there are some of those and I want to say, because they're not afraid to say it, some in the Democratic Party, they are, I know, they are saying we need to take the debt ceiling off. Now, if you don't understand what a debt ceiling is, it's simply the level at which we can have debt. So if I set for my family, you know what, I'm never going to allow myself to go any more than $5,000 in debt. And by the way, the average American family is like, I don't know how many, over $100,000 in debt. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, so let's say, okay, I'm never going to let us go over $5,000. That's my debt ceiling. That's the ceiling. Won't go any higher than this. They keep changing the ceiling. Remember me talking about the line in the sand? What is your line in the sand? I know many, many people, it used to be, oh man, if they ever did this, that'd be the hill I died on. Okay. Until they did it. So they just erased that line and they moved it up a little. Well, maybe it's not so bad. But at this line, okay, well, abortion, I get it. But man, if they ever did third trimester abortions, that's my line. Oh, they did. Oh, well, I really don't want to ruffle feathers, so I'm going to move the line again. Well, if they ever did like partial birth abortion, you get what I'm saying? Now they're selling body parts. I know it's graphic. I'm sorry. But the answer to this is not to pretend it's not happening because we don't want to offend your delicate sensibilities, okay? The answer is to stand up with a bold and a strong voice and say, foul, demonic, wrong. You cannot do this. You will not do this without me protesting it. That's the right thing to do. If you think Jesus would watch a child in the street getting abused by someone and not say anything, well, I'm just focusing on the Lord. Come on. All right. So there's some Democrats saying eliminate the ceiling altogether. Let's just eliminate it. That'll speed up the process of our economy collapsing, and then we can introduce a global currency, and everything will be fine then. Okay. I know I get off. I know. Number 8. This is a read about the World Economic Forum, about the reset, and I know what happens is these things become a big deal and we all talk about it and then we're like, oh, okay, I'm tired of hearing about that and we move on to the next thing. Arm yourself with information. Prepare yourself emotionally. What if in a short amount of time suddenly you cannot buy or sell? What if you literally are alive to see that happen? And you are there saying you cannot buy or sell any longer unless you flow into this. Are you going to justify it? Well, I'm not going to let my kids, and I'm not going to, or are you going to say, you know what? God said this would happen. I'm ready. I prepared myself mentally and emotionally to make a stand, no matter what. Okay. Read that one, number 8. Number 9, I'm almost done, even though I'm only halfway through. It typically happens. Is there a Russian nuclear submarine carrying nuclear missiles off the U.S. coast? Well, you better read it. That's a read too. If you don't like reading, learn to like it. Not everything has to be on a video, okay? It has been reported that there was a nuclear submarine steaming. You know, a lot of these things that were meant to be kept secret because of the proliferation of the internet through the information age, we get to see it. And I mean, we get to see it. Okay, it's not a curse. It's only a curse if you let it be a curse, if you obsess, okay? Don't do that. So, whether it is or isn't, I typically put the question mark there when I'm not sure. It's been reported. It is entirely within the realm of probability for that to happen. So, look at that one, number 9. Wish I could tell you more on that. Here's a video, number 10. Scottish warrior goes all Braveheart. Okay. Sometimes when people say things that other people don't want to believe, you know what we do? You know what the masses do? They just, you're crazy. I've been called crazy. Okay. In other words, we're going to disparage you. We're going to discredit you. Do you know that even the Apostle Paul and some of his companions were called crazy? He said, if we are beside ourselves, which is an old Elizabethan New King or King James way of saying crazy, mad, insane, mentally imbalanced, okay, for real. He said, if we are beside ourselves, if we're mad, it is for your sake. Now, they weren't mad. One of them says, Festus, one of the Roman leaders, governor, emperor, whatever, he said, Paul, much learning has made you mad. It's made you crazy. See, that's what we do. We disassociate ourselves and discredit people by tagging them. You're anti-this. You're election denier. You're an anti-abortionist or an anti-women's rights, or you're this, or you're that, or whatever. So we tag them, and both sides do this, by the way. We tag them with the most negative thing we can think of, so that what? Nobody will want to go disagree with that. Oh my goodness. Well, that person's a this. I'm not going to agree with that because I don't want to be labeled either. Remember the story, the king has no clothes? Everyone just goes along with it. It's an old fable, okay? Somebody convinces the king of these invisible clothes. And he sees them and he's like, oh, king, I know you see these because only wise people see these. And so the king goes out naked, parading in his, magnificent invisible clothes. And all the people are, no one's acting shocked. You want a good example of this? Look at North Korea. Nobody that you see, have you ever seen the way they clap? They're just like, oh, to Kim Jong-il. Why? Because they die if they don't do that. There's something in us that doesn't want to stand up. All right. So this guy is a Scottish man who, very intelligent, very articulate, not at all crazy, but it's easier to call him crazy so you can discredit him. That's a long one, but it's a good one. Number 11, Joe Rogan and Carrie Lake. Something I didn't know until just recently because I haven't watched, but Joe Rogan has the most popular broadcast or podcast on the planet. Isn't that something? And yet he's foul-mouthed and he's rough around the edges. And I'm not an avid listener, but once in a while, if I can cut through all of his potty mouth, I listen. And he's talking about Carrie Lake and what's going on in Arizona. I'm not going to comment much on that, but I will say that one of the most important things that's happening in our country on that level, when it comes to elections and so on, is happening in Arizona right now. If you don't know what's happening there, you should know. You really should know, because it is a social issue. And I'm going to say this one more time: God cares about social issues. Okay, God is not uncaring and like, oh, that doesn't matter. Oh, they're burning people at the stake. Oh, that's a social. No, no, no. Okay, God cares about everything that's happening. Okay, and if He cares about it, we should care about it too. So that's all I'm going to say in the number 12. This is a short video. This is an official, either the sheriff or the mayor or someone of Yuma, Arizona. I've got friends in Yuma right now. It's not that far from where I'm at. And this person is pleading with federal powers, pleading and saying, you don't understand what's happening. We're about to be completely overrun by this wave of illegal immigrants coming across our border, all because our president will not enforce the law. You see, if the president isn't bound to the law, who else will be? Have you thought about that? We're not talking about a matter of someone's opinion about this person's need or how they're suffering, as horrible as it is, or this issue, or here's what I think about it. What's your stand on this? I've seen someone asking a politician, what's your stand on capital punishment? They wouldn't answer. Okay, here's my stand as an official, as a government or political or police or whatever official. I am here to enforce currently what the law says. Okay, well, we're not people of law, we're people of grace. I'm not even going to dignify that with an answer. You take away the laws, everybody's doomed. Really, you're going to go back to caveman status. It's true. It'll always be that way until Jesus comes, period. But, so he's saying, if you don't, Mr. President, if you do not enforce the current laws, you are the commander-in-chief. It is your duty. By law, it is your duty to enforce the law. What's happening at the border is nothing less than breaking the law. It's that simple. It's not rocket science. I don't know why people discuss and wait a minute. Is it the law? Yes. Are we still committed to the law? Yes, we are. Are we going to throw out the law? Yes. No. You get what I'm saying. We hire these officials or vote them in to enforce the laws that the public have said need to happen. In theory. So you need to watch over. Number 13. I'm going to skip over these. 13 and then a couple others that go with number 13 and then number 14. There is something dramatically wrong in our school systems. I'm just going to read this quick stat and then move on because I gotta be done here. 32,000 children have been disenrolled. They're no longer enrolled. Disenrolled is not the right word. The enrollment in the state of Oregon, where I'm initially from, is down 32,000 kids. Let's let it sink in. Enrollment from last year, I believe it's just last year, that's a lot of kids. 32,000 kids that were enrolled are not enrolled. I wonder why that would be. And all the officials and the pundits will try with all their scientific things to prove that it's just some kind of natural thing that's happening. And well, it's because of the weather. No. It's because they're falling apart. Our school systems have become bastions of political correctness rather than teaching what it means to be educated. Our systems for the schools are falling apart. And people are beginning to recognize it and pull out. So I'll say about that. I want to give you a couple good pieces of news, 15 and 16. Two things have happened on the right to life front, and then I'll end right here. Two things that I believe are really their righteousness. I don't know how else to say it. So one thing that happened recently was a Catholic priest, I believe he was a priest, or a Catholic man, a pro-life, no, he is a father, how would I say this? The FBI came in guns blazing like he was a terrorist. Broke his door down, terrified his kids, put him in handcuffs, treated him like some kind of a debauched, murdering, rapist criminal. All because he was accused of assaulting someone at a abortion clinic. Okay, you'll have to go back and read all, don't have time. The charges were dropped. Okay, he was found, he was acquitted of the foolishness. See, what's happening is our FBI's and other institutions are becoming weapons for woke theology, or not theology, but ideology, and all these crazy ideologies that are proliferating in the planet right now. So our federal institutions are now becoming the arm to enforce ideas rather than the law. So that was dropped out of court. That is a huge victory, not only for Mike Houck, the father, the Catholic priest, but also for the issue of the right to stand and speak out against abortion. The other one is just the opposite. So once Roe v. Wade was overturned, there was a massive, at least 60 that I know of, maybe more. Now, we're not talking about pro-lifers. Listen closely because I'm done. We're not talking about pro-lifers firebombing, graffitiing, and attacking Planned Parenthood centers, abortion mills. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about people who are right to life attacking, pro-abortion. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people who are pro-abortion attacking crisis pregnancy clinics, right to life. People who are like, you know what, there's another option besides aborting your child. Okay, it's a human being. Here's another option. You have to make the choice. Now, they're not allowed to browbeat them. Okay, 60-some of those clinics have been firebombed, graffitied, given threatening, we're going to kill you, you're not safe anymore. 60-some. You almost didn't hear a peep about it. And the federal government, the Department of Justice, was doing nothing about them. Finally, are you listening? Political pressure, social pressure, let me say it that way, citizen pressure, people like you and I, who wrote their congressman, who wrote the department, whoever, and said, you know what, this cannot stand. You cannot, finally, they're starting to bring some of these people up on charges. So those are two huge wins, and we should be thanking the Lord for them. All right, I got to be done. Amen. Love you guys. God bless you. Make sure to look at the things, and make sure to share this with other people. So this will be on our other channel, our other YouTube channel, Justice for America. We have two channels, remember, Words of Encouragement, Just for America, and it will stay on Facebook, and then primarily it will be on Rumble for your viewing pleasure and your sharing pleasure. So God bless you. We love you. Give yourself permission to have a great day. God bless.